This is one of the most successful nomads that I've met. His mindset is there. This guy is 26 years old. If somebody's watching this and they're in America and they're like, okay, I want to do the nomad thing, but I got my job, what would you recommend to them to start? What is up, my fellow nomads? It is my pleasure to bring to you one of the most successful nomads I've ever met in my travels. I have Mr. Robert Schad here. His name is Rob. And I met him in 2018 in Medellin, Colombia, when he was just a young lad. Now he's a young man. I met him when he was, I believe, 19 or 20. He's 26 now. And he's one of the most successful nomads that I've ever met in my travels. He has a startup here in Mexico City, and we're going to talk more about that here in a bit. And he's getting into corporate contracts, working some pretty big deals. And he's just a really solid marketer, operator, and visionary entrepreneur. So without further ado, tell everybody about yourself. What's your name, where you're from, and what do you do?
Cool. Appreciate the intro, Frank. A lot of love there. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, spent my first 18 years there, realized the suburban American life wasn't for me. So started traveling at 19, skipped out on college. My journey took me out to LA, spent a few years in LA, joined a high growth startup, and yeah, kind of paused nomad life for a few years. And then it called me back again. But even in my time in the US, I would still call myself relatively a nomad. I never spent more than a year anywhere, just kind of hopped around quite a bit. And yeah, ended up in Mexico City end of 2021 and have been stationed here since then. Just an incredible place to be, as Frank knows very well.
Yeah, so what do you do for work right now?
Yeah, so when I originally came down here, I was working remote for a startup in the US.
That's right.
And the more time I spent here, I just realized that there's just a lot missing compared to the US, especially when it came to eating healthy. So I wanted to go and attack that market. And since we launched Nourish about a year and a half ago, we've just been iterating out different concepts to bring more healthy food options to the Mexico City food scene.
So one of the things I want you guys to take away is this guy's an entrepreneur, and as an entrepreneur, your job is always to identify and observe problems. Let's walk around. We're in Parque Mexico, by the way, which is the main park in Mexico City in Condesa, and this is one of the cool spots to hang out in. So he saw a need, like any good entrepreneur can or does. And so he said, okay, there's a need here for healthy food. So he has a company called Nourish. They provide healthy food delivered to your door. They have the macros, they have good proteins, there's a balanced meal, and it's all healthy. So he saw a need for that kind of service here in Mexico City. And because he thinks systems-based, because he thinks operations-based, he's like, okay, I want to, tell me about your operations, dude. Because you have a solid operations. So you have a ghost kitchen. Tell me about this ghost kitchen. What does it do? Walk me through the business model.
Yeah, so a lot of people, when they think of going into the food space, they're like, okay, we need to go do a restaurant, or we need to go build out a kitchen. If you do that, you're looking at multiple six figures of investment, even in Mexico. So we wanted to do something more efficiently. So there's these things called ghost kitchens. We don't own the kitchen. It's almost like co-working space, but for restaurants.
Yeah.
We were able from day one to go open up. All the permitting, licensing, facilities were already there. All we had to do was bring in our equipment. So from day one, we were able to take our CapEx down by, it was about 10% of what it would be to start up a restaurant. So we opened up our ghost kitchen. We hired an executive chef to manage our operations and started building out all the systems and processes to source food, produce food, package it, and then deliver it.
A lot of takeaways there. So he had an idea, and he's not a chef. He hired an executive chef. So as an entrepreneur, a lot of your job is to find people with the right skills. Skills pay the bills. As an entrepreneur, you want to take your capital and you want to minimize your exposure. You want to minimize business right now. I'm going to link his business here in the comments. to help my boy out on SEO ranking. You can find out more about that. And if you're in Mexico City, you got to try out his food. But let's talk more about the nomad life. You're kind of right now expat vibes right now in Mexico City. So this particular series is for nomads or expats in Mexico City. For the people that are watching this, that are stuck in America with this life matters and that life matters and this political division and this school shooting, all that stuff that happens in America, what would you tell that person about living in Mexico City compared to living in the United States?
Yeah, so I came down to Mexico City. It was actually a coworker at one point who told me about it. I was like, oh, this is an incredible place. And at that time, I think I already traveled to maybe 20 countries, but never had Mexico City on my radar. Came down here, and the things that really surprised me, one, as you can probably see from the video, it is incredibly green here.
Yeah.
There's so many trees. The weather year-round is almost perfect, which for me, I'm not a 4 seasons person. I'm a 1 season person. So I feel like it's always like a spring or summer here, which is just so ideal for living. Two, there's an amazing community, whether it be, I have a group of friends that are local Mexicans, I have a group of friends that are expats and nomads. So just, yeah, amazing community of people, very diverse backgrounds. The food scene here is incredible. There's just restaurants opening up every day. There's restaurants on every corner, amazing cafes, bars, nightlife scenes. So it just, La Condesa, Roma Norte, or Polanco are all kind of going to be in the same price point, whereas like La Condesa, Roma Norte are a bit inflated due to just, it is the place to be in Mexico City. Polanco's always been expensive, but yeah, to live here on the low end, you're probably spending 1,200 USD a month for a nice apartment. Personally, I'm willing to share. I spend about 2,100, but the building's incredibly unique. It's done by a very famous architect. It's a 2-story, very modern loft. So where I pay 2,100, and it's not cheap for Mexico City, but a similar place in like in New York, LA, you're probably spending 6-7K for that type of apartment.
Absolutely, easily. Yeah, like he's spending $2,100 a month. Like that's high end. You know, I know some places that are like $600-700 a month. That's if you sign a lease. If you go in the Airbnb market, you can realistically drop about $1,000, $1,200, $1,300. But I mean, I've seen this place on his stories. He's got a legit spot, and that's pretty there. So overall, per month, like how much are we looking? You know, per month. What's a good budget? If someone's in America and they're like, I'm tired of this pronoun stuff and this lives matters and this cause of the week and sending money to the Ukraine and this and that. If they're just tired with that and they don't want to deal with it, how much do you need to spend? What's a good budget for the month for all in, everything?
I would say you can do it on the low end, like 1,500. Yeah. You can live very well for like 2,500. And if you spend 4K, you're living very, very well. But I will say, one thing about Mexico City, the sky's also the limit. You're in one of the wealthiest places in Latin America. So if you have the money to spend, you can have a very, very high quality life. Do you want a driver? Do you want a housekeeper? Do you want the penthouse in Polanco? Do you want to have a private chef? It's all attainable here at a fraction of the cost of the US.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think around 1,000 on the low end. That's, if you're slumming it, 2,000, it's like, okay. 3,000, you're like, okay, maybe around upper middle class. 4,000 for sure, you're upper class, upper middle class, and then 5,000 or more. I mean, you're living like the top 10%, if not top 5 or 3% here in the city. So talk to me about the cons of Mexico City, because not every place is perfect. What would you say to somebody who's watching this? Like, okay, I'm moving to Mexico City. Before you get in, hey, hold on now. You want to be mindful about this. What would you advise that person?
Yeah, so I'll start with what I think people think is the biggest con, which would be safety. But I generally feel way safer in Mexico City than I do when I lived in LA or visited New York. So is traffic. If you need to go anywhere, it can be a little annoying to sit in an Uber for an hour. But again, as a nomad, you kind of get to choose where your life is.
Yeah.
So not too often I have to make trips, but when I do, it can be quite annoying to have to sit in hours of traffic.
Yeah, so that's it. The traffic and the air quality. No other cons.
That's it for me.
Yeah.
It's November when we're filming this. It's a beautiful it's December actually. It's a beautiful sunny day. Not too many places in North America have that.
Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, I think, so the air quality, the smog is visible from space. This has been confirmed by astronauts. Like the air quality is really bad here. So that's for me one of the biggest cons there. Yeah, so to kind of wrap this up, if somebody's watching this and they're like, I want to be a nomad, but I have a nice job, because you had some nice jobs in America, man. Like this guy is one of the best networkers I've ever met in my life. He has really strong soft skills. His hard skills are pretty good. They're getting better. That just comes with time. But his soft skills are literally world class. He's a great networker, great with people. I've seen him in action, and he had some really nice jobs in America. I've got fraternity brothers just like you, same profile, and I know the opportunities of multiple six-figure jobs. You even had a six-figure job whenever I first saw you in 2021 over here. Yeah. So, I mean, if somebody's watching this and they're in America and they're like, okay, I want to do the nomad thing, but I got my job, what would you recommend to them to start?
Yeah, this is actually a Tim Ferriss recommendation. First, start with go to your company and see if they'll let you work remote, or even maybe test out, go to them and say hey, can we do 2 weeks remote? If it goes great, go and ask, hey, can we do a month remote? If that goes great, can this be full-time remote? You don't need to go and immediately jump and look for a new job. When the opportunity may be there with your company, you just have to ask. So I would say that would be my first recommendation, is see if what you're currently doing can be remote. If you try and you can't, look at your skill set. You could look at other jobs that could give you that potential. You could look at something like you can consult in your space. Usually consulting is almost a lot of the time that can be done remotely. So does one of your core skill sets from your job, do you work in investment banking? Well, you're probably great at making financial models. If that's the case, there are people that are willing to pay you a lot of money to do that and don't care where you are. So I would say look at some of those hard skills you have and how you can market yourself around those skills. If, again, you're kind of in the situation where you can't find a job that would let you work remote.
Yo, this is like a legit nomad. This is a guy, I'm going to try to secretly buy part of his company. His company is Nourish. I promise you in a couple of years, he's going to be bought out for a couple million. And I just want to be part of the exit, man. I just want to have some skin in the game to partake in the royalties and the rewards, man. So make sure you follow his company. It's Nourish. We'll put the links down in the comments below. And yeah, this is one of the most successful nomads that I've met. His mindset is there. This guy is 26 years old. I wasn't even a nomad until 28. This guy is way ahead of the curve. If you're watching this and you're under the age of 21, you have to go out into the nomad space. You just have more freedom to be able to experience things. If you're whatever age you are, I promise you're super young. You're young enough. The lifestyle, the adventures that you and I have lived together in our 8-ish years of nomading, we could stop nomading now and have stories for the rest of our lives. Yes or no?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
All right, guys, that was this section of expats and nomads in Mexico City. Make sure you subscribe, like, and if you have anything you want me to ask people in the future, leave a comment below. Howdy!